Alright, so I'm gonna show you how to create any crosshair and put it into Kovaaks. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go into photopea.com or open up Photoshop. Second, you need to create a canvas that matches the size, the resolution that you play Kovaaks in. For me, it's 1920 by 1080. You create the project. Why is this always so bad? Wait. Alright, I need... Okay, I have no clue why this thing keeps... Alright, good. So, now you create 1920 by 1080, right? Now, let's do a CSGO crosshair first. So, here I have CSGO, right? Unfortunately, OBS kind of can't capture the game stretched, so now it looks really weird, but that does not matter. The crosshair, you need to find out how big your crosshair is. You need to find the dimensions basically. In Valorant, the dimensions are very simple. It's just literally the numbers of the thickness, length, and gap. In CSGO, as you can see, the numbers are a bit weird. So, the way you find your thickness is you just basically, well, if you can't make the thickness lower, then it's thickness 1 of 1 pixel. If you can make it higher than 1, and it's like this thickness, right? Just one stage above the lowest one, it's 2, 3, 4, etc. Right? You can figure that out. Basically the Xantares crosshair that I have loaded up right now is thickness 1. Now for the gap, again, you take this crosshair and now you count how many steps it takes to go down to 0, right? So here we have 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. Alright, 4 steps. This, by the way, this where there is a small dot in the middle for thickness 1 is, well, this is, yeah. So in CSGO, I think the lowest gap you can have is -1, right? So this should be 0. This here is 0, gap 0, translated to Valorant terms. Gap 0, this is gap 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 4 is where we have this entire crosshair, right? So now we found out that the gap is 4 pixels. For the length, it's the same thing. You just count down. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5 is when the crosshair disappears. So that means that the length is 5. So in Valorant terms, the crosshair would be 1, 5, 1, 4. The 1 in the beginning is opacity, by the way. So like opacity 1, length 5, thickness 1, and gap 4. If you play Valorant, then you don't need to worry about this. If you play CSGO, you kind of have to figure out how big the crosshair is in terms of pixels. Okay, so now to make the stretched crosshair, what you need to do is you need to press U or select this rectangle tool. Now you need to create a rectangle with the dimensions of your stretched resolution, so 1024 by 768, right? So you create this rectangle here. Why are you serious? Why can I not see the layers? Okay, good. So we delete the smaller one and we delete the background. Now you have a 1024 by 768 rectangle here. If you played Valorant on 1280 by 960, then you'd create a rectangle of the size 1280 by 960. Right, now you take your eraser tool, you erase, okay, you rasterize the layer first, and then you erase a part in the middle of the rectangle. Now we zoom in until we can see the pixels, so basically to the max. Now you select the pencil tool, that you click on this, the brush tool, and then select the pencil tool. Size 1 pixel, color should be white, because white can be recolored later in Kovaaks. So now, for thickness 1, the gap 0 is basically 1 pixel. The reason why gap 0 is 1 pixel, which doesn't really make sense, right? But if you draw a crosshair here, right? If you want to have gap 0 and like you think gap 0 is no gap, then you have to draw this, and now suddenly this is 3, this is 4. So you'd have this kind of crosshair, but then it's hard to explain. Just for thickness 1, gap 0 is basically a dot in the middle. So you should create a new layer here. So take a different color for now, and let's just show the gaps, right? So for crosshair of thickness 1, gap 0 is this. For crosshair of thickness 2, the gap is actually nothing, because there you can actually work with it. So here what I'm drawing here, right? So this dot here is gap 0 for crosshair of thickness 1, and the bigger square is gap 1 for crosshair of thickness 2. I'm gonna show both cases because it's probably really confusing right now. So anyways, this is gap 0, adding basically pixels on, adding 1 pixel on each. Well, you get it, you can see it, right? I don't know how to explain stuff. This is gap 1, right? Because you added 1 pixel on top of the gap 0. Now adding 2 pixels here, this is gap 2. Now adding another layer of pixels here is gap 3, and finally this basically is gap 4. This is the gap. And now, because we're creating a crosshair of thickness 1, we can finally draw the crosshair. Now the crosshair, as you can recall, had length of 5, so you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pixels at the end of this red thing, right, on each side, because that's how crosshairs look. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if we draw this, actually another mistake, you should draw it into the rectangle. So you need to select the layer with the rectangle and draw it into there, right? This is just a help. This cross, the red cross, is basically the gap. It's just like a visual clue of how you're supposed to draw the crosshair. It's not necessary. So now we delete the gap there, and this, ladies and gentlemen, if it lets me zoom out, this right here is 1514. It's the crosshair, but we're not done yet. So we zoom out, right? The crosshair is now in the middle of this red rectangle. The reason we created this rectangle was so that we can now stretch this entire thing. You do that by selecting transform tools here on the shape. And now all you need to do is you just need to fit this into the canvas size, right? Because this is basically how the game stretches it. Because 1024 by 768 was the original red rectangle, and when you basically have full screen mode but on a lower resolution, it just stretches the pixels out like this. This is how the crosshairs basically get stretched. This is why the game looks stretched, because yeah, okay, whatever. Right, so we deselect the transform tools, and now if we zoom in again, right, and we find the crosshair here, this here, if I can move it, this thing right over here, right, this thing that you're seeing here, you're not really seeing it because it's almost invisible, is the stretched 1514 crosshair, aka the Zentaris crosshair. So now you just need to erase all this red thing, all the unnecessary things here. Just need to erase everything except the crosshair, of course. The red rectangle is there only to help us stretch out the crosshair later. If you don't play stretch, if you play native, then, well, you did not have to do any of the steps. I'm gonna create one more crosshair for reference. Okay, there's more red things here, which is bad. That's because I was moving. In Photoshop it's easier because it's not a budget, because this is just a budget Photoshop, right? Right. Okay, there's something more. So now you need to align the crosshair as well, right? Because we were drawing the crosshair on a random place of the canvas. So now you press Control A and you select, or you click the two buttons here, center horizontally, center vertically. And now you just save this image. And this image is basically what this image is an overlay of your monitor, right? And in the center you have a stretch crosshair. So it's not the reason we're not drawing it in like a 50 by 50 pixel sized image is because we're just trying to fully recreate. It's basically an overlay for your screen. It's just that there's nothing else other than the crosshair. So now you just save this, export as PNG. PNG is necessary here because, yeah, just PNG. Now you save this, and now you just put it into the crosshairs folder, and you can open it up. I could open up Kovaaks, but I have to turn off CS. And I can show you how the crosshair now would look in game. Alright, while we're doing that, while Kovaaks is opening, we can create another crosshair. So I'm just gonna erase this, whatever. This is now I'm just gonna actually do one more so it becomes a bit clearer. Also, I'm not going to be stretching it anymore. It's just going to be a crosshair as if you were playing native, right? Yeah, we also need to move them both into there. Bear with me for a minute. So again, you zoom in. Now let's say you went to the crosshair of thickness 2, length 4, and gap 2, which is 1422, which is basically the 10's crosshair. A lot of Valorant players use the crosshair. It's just like the crosshair, I guess, pretty much. So now you take, again, pencil tool, thickness 1, color white, actually color red, because we're going to be, why is this annoying again? So we create new layers, 2 new layers. So again, the gap is 2, right? As I said, this thing here is gap 1. So this means that this is gap 2. Right? You just have to remember it. I can't think of a way to explain this in simple terms. Whatever, this is just gap 2, okay? And now on top of that, you create the crosshair. So pencil tool, color white, and now, as I said, length should be 4. So you draw 4 pixels like this, and yeah, that's the crosshair. That's 1422. Because again, the thickness is 2, right? We can see that the white, I have 2 1 pixel lines next to each other, which means it's a 2 pixel thick crosshair, and then the gap is 2. Now when we delete, mistakes were made. Wait, what letter am I supposed to draw this on? Right, now we erase the thing in the middle, right? This is 1422. We can zoom out for it to be a bit more visible. Now we have a 1422 crosshair in the canvas. We press Ctrl A again and just align it again with these 2 buttons, and that's it. That's the crosshair. So yeah, obviously if you play native, then you're quite lucky because it's way easier to create a native crosshair, but well, not easier necessarily. It's just faster because you don't need to stretch it out. Alright, export as PNG again. Save. Alright, now I'm gonna go into my D drive somehow. You can, yeah, just common, alright, Steam apps, common, FPS aim trainer, FPS aim trainer, crosshairs, and now I just put both of these things into there. So new project 3 and 4. I just have to somehow put this in. Windows 11 is really annoying. Right, so you paste it in, new project 3 and 4, right? We're going to Kovaaks here, let's, whatever. Okay, this is not a good scenario to show this on. Let's see. Let's just do this, right? Replay, play. Okay, so settings, weapons. Now we go into crosshairs. New project 3. Alright, 3 is the stretch crosshair. Yes, this is the Zantares crosshair basically, as you can see. Now, it might look a bit like, it might feel different than what you're used to in CSGO. The main reason for that is because in CSGO you stretch out even the models, right? But here you only have a stretch out crosshair on lower resolution, while all of this is still 1920 by 1080. Wait, yeah, 1920 by 1080. Again, Zantares crosshair is green, right? So you just, what? Right, you just put green. And there you go. This is the Zentaris crosshair made in Kovaaks. Right, my it's kind of bad right now. Whatever. The second one, as I said, was the 1422, which is the new project 4, I believe, right? It's mostly seen in cyan. And yeah, this is 1422, as you can see. This is the crosshair that most Valorant players use. Or not most, I would say, but it's really popular because Tens played on this crosshair for a really long time. And yeah, well, we all know how popular Tens is. This is 1422. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this video is not gonna be edited at all because I don't feel like editing. Yeah, I just follow the steps. Honestly, it's not that hard. You make like 1, 2, 3 maybe crosshairs, and you're just gonna understand it. For outlines, it'll be the same thing, right? Like if you wanted outlines, where's my photopia? If you wanted outlines, then you just zoom in into this crosshair. Except, yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm terrible. All right. So you have the crosshair here, right? If you wanted outlines, then you do the same thing. You just first figure out how thick the crosshair is, the length. So let's say it's 1422, but with outlines on. Then you just take a brush tool, you select black, and you literally. Why can I not draw? What is happening? Man, if I had Photoshop, this would be so much easier. I cannot draw for some reason into this. Alright, whatever. I cannot show you, but you just draw an outline around the crosshair, okay? Whatever, that's it. See ya.